Dinner was supposed to be just another quiet family night. My wife sat across from me, smiling, while our daughter played with her food like always. Then suddenly, my daughter leaned closer and whispered something in my ear. Just a few soft words. I thought nothing of it until I looked up. My wife had gone completely pale. In that moment, I realized whatever my daughter had just said was a secret my wife never wanted me to hear.
This is a fictional American romance story created using AI for entertainment purposes only, intended strictly for audiences 18 years and older and not suitable for children under 18.
Seattle rain had a way of turning ordinary evenings into something reflective. It tapped softly against the white kitchen windows of the Carter house, blurring the lights of Lake Washington into long, golden streaks. Inside, the kitchen smelled like roasted garlic and rosemary chicken, the kind of meal that Laura Carter liked to photograph before anyone touched their plates. Nathan stood by the counter, pouring sparkling water into 3 glasses. "Dinner's ready," he called. 8-year-old Lily ran into the kitchen with sock feet sliding across the hardwood floor. "Did you make the chicken again?" she asked. Nathan smiled. "You liked it last time." "Yeah, but Mom likes it more," Lily said with the blunt logic only children possess. Laura entered a moment later, still holding her phone, her blonde hair tied loosely behind her head. "Did someone say my name?" she asked, smiling. For anyone looking in from outside, from the tidy suburban street, from Instagram, from the lives of their neighbors, they were the picture of an American family that had done everything right. Nathan Carter, 41, architect, calm, reliable. Laura Carter, 39, marketing strategist at a fast-growing tech company in downtown Seattle. A beautiful house, a bright daughter, a life that looked curated but was, for the most part, genuine. They sat down together. Nathan carved a chicken while Lily talked about her school project involving marine animals. "I picked the octopus," she said proudly. "Of course you did," Laura said. "You love the weird ones." "They're not weird," Lily protested. "They're smart." Nathan chuckled. Then something small happened. So small that most people might have missed it. Lily leaned toward her mother. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet, conspiratorial movement of a child about to share a secret. She cupped her hand around Laura's ear and whispered something. Nathan didn't hear the words, but he saw the reaction. Laura froze. Not the way someone pauses while listening, the way someone freezes when something inside them suddenly collapses. Her hand tightened around the fork. The color drained from her face. For one strange second, she looked like a person who had just been caught standing on the edge of a cliff. Nathan blinked. "Laura?" he said. She straightened quickly. "Sorry," she said with a thin laugh. "What were you saying, Lily?" Lily frowned. "I already said it. Say it again." Lily shrugged and took a bite of chicken instead. "Nothing," she said. Nathan watched Laura carefully now. She wasn't eating. Her eyes flicked briefly toward Lily, then toward Nathan, then down at her plate. It passed quickly, too quickly to question without sounding paranoid. So Nathan said nothing. Dinner continued. They talked about Lily's upcoming piano recital, about Laura's new project at work, about the rainstorm forecast for the weekend. But something had shifted. Nathan could feel it, the way you feel a loose floorboard under your foot. Later that night, after Lily went to bed, Nathan found Laura standing at the kitchen sink. The house was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator. "You okay?" he asked. Laura startled slightly. "Yeah, why? You looked weird at dinner." She turned back to the sink. "I'm tired." Nathan leaned against the counter. Lily whispered something funny. Laura hesitated, just a fraction too long. "No," she said, "just kid stuff." Nathan nodded slowly. He wanted to push further, but something about her posture stopped him. So instead, he said, "You should get some sleep." "Yeah." That night, Nathan woke up around 2:13 a.m. Laura wasn't in bed. The bathroom light was off. He walked quietly down the hallway. From the living room, he saw a dim glow. Laura sat on the couch. Her phone screen lit her face in pale blue. She didn't notice him. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen, typing, then stopping, then typing again. Nathan stepped forward. The floor creaked. Laura immediately turned the phone face down. Her expression was composed, too composed. "Couldn't sleep?" Nathan asked. "Just checking emails. At 2 in the morning? Big campaign launch tomorrow." Nathan nodded. "Right." She forced a smile. Go back to bed. I'll be there in a minute. Nathan returned to the bedroom, but sleep didn't come easily, because something had lodged itself in his mind. Not a fact, not a memory, just a question. What had Lily whispered, and why had Laura looked like someone who had just seen a ghost? Across the hallway, Laura Carter stared at her phone again. The last message on the screen read, Michael, did Lily say anything today? Laura's fingers trembled. She typed slowly. I don't know. Then she erased it, typed again. She whispered something at dinner. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Michael finally replied. What did she say? Laura looked toward the dark hallway where her husband slept. Her chest tightened. I don't know, she typed again. But deep down she already suspected, and the possibility made her feel cold. Very cold. Seattle entered one of those long gray stretches when the rain no longer arrived in storms, but in a steady, patient drizzle that seemed determined to outlast the city itself. For Nathan Carter, the weeks after that dinner began quietly enough. Quietly, but not normally. At first it was the little things. Laura had always been a late worker. Marketing campaigns for tech companies never slept, and product launches seemed to follow Silicon Valley time zones rather than Seattle's. Nathan was used to seeing her laptop open on the kitchen island after Lily went to bed. But now it wasn't the laptop. It was her phone. Always her phone. One Tuesday night, Nathan walked into the living room after putting Lily to sleep and found Laura sitting on the couch again, her legs tucked beneath her, the room dark except for the pale glow of her screen. Her thumbs moved quickly. When she noticed him, the phone lowered instantly. You're still up? She asked. Nathan checked the wall clock. It's 10:45. Laura smiled faintly. Marketing never sleeps. He sat in the armchair across from her. New campaign? Yeah. For who? She hesitated just long enough for Nathan to notice. A gaming startup, she said. They're launching something next month. Nathan nodded slowly. Sounds stressful. It is. She looked relieved when he stood up again. I'm grabbing tea. Want some? No, I'm good. But when he returned from the kitchen a minute later, Laura had already left the room. Her phone was gone with her. A few days later, Lily mentioned the name. The moment passed quickly. Too quickly. But Nathan felt it like a crack forming beneath ice. It was Saturday morning. Pancakes were burning slightly on the griddle, while Lily sat at the kitchen counter, drawing something colorful with markers. What are you making? Nathan asked. A sea monster, obviously, Lily giggled. Can Uncle Michael see it next time he visits? She asked. The spatula slipped slightly in Nathan's hand. Michael Dawson, his best friend since college, godfather to Lily. A man who had practically lived in their house during the early years of Nathan and Laura's marriage. Nathan glanced toward the dining room. Laura sat there with her laptop open. She had gone completely still. Not a dramatic reaction, just still, like someone had suddenly become aware of being watched. Nathan turned back to the stove. Sure, he said lightly. Michael loves your drawings. But Lily wasn't finished. I told Mommy about him at dinner, she said casually. Nathan flipped the pancake. Oh yeah? Yeah. Laura's chair scraped loudly against the floor. I have a call in 5 minutes, she said suddenly, closing her laptop. Nathan looked up. Her expression was tight. On a Saturday? He asked. Asia team. She walked quickly toward the hallway. Eat without me. The bedroom door closed. Nathan and Lily were left alone in the kitchen. Lily dipped her pancake into syrup. Mommy's been working a lot, she said. Yeah, she gets grumpy when I say Uncle Michael's name. Nathan forced a smile. Why do you think that is? Lily shrugged. Grown-up stuff. Nathan laughed softly. Probably. But the question remained. Why? Over the next 2 weeks, Laura began traveling more. Not dramatically more, just enough for Nathan to notice. San Francisco, she said one Monday morning while packing a small suitcase. 2 days. You just went to San Jose last week, Nathan said. Different client. He leaned against the bedroom door frame. Your company suddenly expand? She zipped the suitcase. You know tech startups. Everything's chaos. Nathan nodded. It sounded plausible. In Seattle, chaos was practically a job description. But something about the way she avoided eye contact bothered him. Want me to drive you to the airport? He asked. No, she said quickly. I'll take an Uber. Why? She paused. Because you have work. Nathan studied her. I could leave 10 minutes earlier. It's fine, Nathan. Her tone was sharper than usual. They both felt it. The silence afterward lingered. Laura softened her voice. Seriously, it's easier this way. Nathan stepped aside. Okay. But after she left, he stood at the window longer than necessary, watching the Uber pull away. 3 nights later, Lily couldn't sleep. Nathan found her sitting cross-legged in the hallway outside her bedroom, clutching a stuffed penguin. What are you doing, night owl? I had a bad dream. Come here. He lifted her easily. Mom is still in California? Lily asked. Yeah, she'll be back tomorrow. Lily rested her head against his shoulder. Daddy? Yeah? Why did Mommy get scared when I talked about Uncle Michael? Nathan stopped walking for just a moment. What do you mean? At dinner that day, Lily said, she looked like she saw a spider. Nathan forced a gentle laugh. Maybe she was just surprised. Why? What exactly did you tell her? Lily thought hard. Her small eyebrows pulled together. I don't remember. Nathan smiled. That's okay. But Lily suddenly brightened. Oh, wait. Nathan's heart gave a small, unexpected thud. What? I told her about the car. The car? Yeah. Nathan kept his voice calm. What car? The one she was in, with Uncle Michael. Nathan felt something cold move slowly through his chest. What about it? Lily shrugged. They were talking. Where did you see them? Outside my school. Nathan blinked. Your school? Yeah. When was that? Last week? Nathan swallowed carefully. Did they see you? No, Lily yawned. I was on the bus. Nathan carried her back to bed, tucked the blankets around her. Try to sleep, he said softly. Okay. She was asleep in minutes, but Nathan remained sitting on the edge of the bed, thinking. Outside her school. Laura had said she was in meetings that day. Nathan walked slowly back into the hallway. For the first time in years, the Carter house felt unfamiliar. Not dangerous, not broken, just wrong. Like a picture hanging slightly crooked on the wall. And suddenly he realized something unsettling. He had begun noticing patterns. Laura's phone, her sudden trips, her reaction to Michael's name. Individually, each detail meant nothing. Together, they formed something else. Something Nathan wasn't ready to name. Downstairs, he poured himself a glass of water, but he didn't drink it. Instead, he stood quietly in the dim kitchen, staring at nothing. And for the first time since that dinner weeks ago, a thought entered his mind with terrifying clarity. Maybe the whisper at the dinner table hadn't been innocent at all. Maybe Lily had already seen something. Something Laura desperately hoped Nathan would never discover. The rain finally stopped in Seattle, leaving the city washed and quiet under a pale, reluctant sun. Nathan Carter noticed the change mostly through the windows of his architecture studio downtown. The clouds lifted just enough to reveal a slice of blue above Lake Union, and the reflection shimmered across the glass buildings like something hopeful trying to break through. But Nathan's thoughts weren't on the skyline. They had been circling the same few questions for days. Outside Lily's school, in a car, with Michael. He hadn't mentioned it to Laura. Not yet. Something inside him preferred to wait, to watch, to understand the full shape of things before speaking aloud what might shatter them. So instead, he did something simple. He texted Michael. Nathan, you back in Seattle yet? The reply came almost instantly. Michael, yeah, landed last week. Been meaning to call. Nathan stared at the message for a moment. Then he typed, grab a drink tonight? A pause. Then, sure, same place? Nathan smiled faintly. Some habits didn't change. The bar was called the Timberline, tucked into a brick building near Pioneer Square. It wasn't trendy anymore. That was exactly why Nathan liked it. The place smelled faintly of oak and old whiskey. The lighting was warm, the booths worn but comfortable. Nathan arrived first. He ordered the bourbon and waited. When Michael Dawson walked in 15 minutes later, he looked almost exactly the same as he had 5 years ago. Tall, dark hair, a little longer now. That easy, confident stride that made strangers assume he belonged wherever he went. Nate. Michael's grin was wide as he approached the booth. Nathan stood and put him into a brief hug. Look at you, Nathan said. Still alive. Barely. They sat. For a while, everything felt easy. They talked about work. Michael has spent the past few years in San Diego working in venture capital before transferring back to Seattle. Nathan taught him about a waterfront project his firm was designing. They ordered another round. It felt like old times. Almost. But there were small things. Small, strange things. When Nathan mentioned Laura, Michael's smile tightened slightly. So how's Laura? Michael asked. Nathan watched him carefully. She's good. Still saving tech companies from themselves? Something like that. Michael laughed, but his eyes flicked down toward his glass. Just for a second, Nathan noticed. Lily's getting tall, Nathan continued casually. Yeah? 8 now. Michael whistled. Damn. I still remember when she could barely walk. Nathan smiled. You used to carry her around the house like a football. Michael chuckled. Kid loved it. Nathan nodded. Then he said something deliberately simple. She still talks about you. Michael's fingers paused on the edge of his glass. Does she? Yeah. Another sip of bourbon. Nathan leaned back. You should come by sometime. Dinner. Lily would like that. Michael hesitated. The hesitation lasted maybe 2 seconds, but it was there. Yeah, he said finally. That'd be good. Nathan tilted his head slightly. You okay? Michael blinked. Yeah, why? You seem distracted. Michael laughed too quickly. Jet lag. Nathan said nothing. They sat in silence for a moment. The bartender wiped glasses behind the counter. A couple near the window laughed too loudly. Normal life continuing around them. Then Michael said something unexpected. Laura ever mentioned me? Nathan looked at him. Sure. Michael shrugged casually. Just curious. Nathan studied his friend. 20 years of friendship had taught him Michael's habits. The way he leaned forward when excited. The way his jaw tightened when he lied. Right now Michael looked careful. Why? Nathan asked. Michael waved a hand. No reason. Nathan nodded slowly. But something deep in his chest had begun tightening. When Nathan arrived home later that night, the house lights were still on. Laura was sitting at the dining table. Not working, just sitting. Her phone rested beside her hand. You're late, she said. Met Michael. The reaction was immediate. Her shoulders stiffened. Tonight? Yeah. Nathan removed his jacket. He's back in Seattle. I know. Nathan looked up. You do? Laura realized her mistake instantly. I mean, he texted a few people. Mutual friends. Nathan walked toward the kitchen. Funny. He said he hadn't talked to anyone yet. Laura's fingers curled slightly against the table. You know, Michael, she said carefully. He exaggerates. Nathan poured himself a glass of water. Maybe. Silence settled between them. Then Nathan spoke again. He asked about you. Laura's eyes lifted slowly. What did you say? That you're busy saving tech companies. Laura forced a small smile. That sounds like something I'd say. Nathan leaned against the counter. He also asked if Lily still talks about him. Laura looked away. She does, Nathan continued. Kids remember people who are nice to them. Nathan nodded. True. Another pause. Then he said casually, she also remembers seeing you outside her school. Laura's head snapped up. What? Nathan held her gaze. Last week. Her face went pale again. Just like at dinner. You were in a car, Nathan continued softly. With Michael. Laura opened her mouth. Closed it. She began, but no explanation came. Nathan didn't press. Instead, he took a slow sip of water. Then he said quietly, funny thing about kids. Laura's breathing had become shallow. They notice everything, Nathan finished. The room felt suddenly colder. Laura stood. I'm going to bed. Nathan watched her walk toward the hallway. Her steps were quick, almost hurried. When the bedroom door closed, Nathan remained standing in the kitchen, alone with his thoughts, and the realization growing heavier by the minute. His wife, his best friend, and the quiet invisible tension that existed whenever their names crossed paths. Nathan wasn't ready to say the word yet, but somewhere deep inside him, the truth had begun forming. Slow, unavoidable, like a crack spreading through glass. The following Sunday morning arrived unusually bright for Seattle. Sunlight slipped through the tall windows of the Carter home, painting soft rectangles across the kitchen floor. It was the kind of quiet, comfortable morning Nathan Carter used to love coffee brewing, Lily humming somewhere in the house, Laura scrolling through recipes she would never actually cook. But that version of the morning had begun to feel like something from an older photograph. Nathan stood at the stove stirring scrambled eggs, while Lily sat cross-legged at the kitchen island in her pajamas, building a small Lego submarine. Laura sat across from her with a mug of coffee, her phone face down beside it. Nathan noticed that small detail. The phone had started spending a lot of time face down lately. Are we still going to the aquarium today? Lily asked. That's the plan, Nathan said. Yes, Lily pumped her fist. Laura smiled faintly. You've already seen every fish in that place. I like the octopus, Lily insisted. Nathan carried the pan to the table and slid eggs onto their plates. For a few minutes, everything felt almost normal again. The quiet clinking of forks, coffee steam rising, morning light warming the room. Then Lily spoke, completely casually, like a child mentioning the weather. I saw Uncle Michael yesterday. Nathan's fork paused halfway to his mouth. Across the table, Laura froze. Not dramatically, just that same stillness Nathan had begun to recognize. He lowered his fork slowly. Oh yeah? He said lightly. Where? Nathan asked. Lily scooped eggs onto her fork. In Mommy's car. Laura set down her coffee too quickly. The mug clinked sharply against the table. Nathan glanced at her. Her eyes were already fixed on Lily. What do you mean? Laura asked, her voice tight. Lily blinked, confused by the sudden attention. I saw you guys. Nathan forced a small chuckle. When? Yesterday, Lily said, after school. Laura's lips parted slightly. Nathan kept his tone calm. On the bus again? Lily nodded. Yeah. Nathan leaned back in his chair. And what were we doing in the car? He asked, looking at Laura. But Lily answered first. You were talking. Laura spoke immediately. Sweetie, eat your breakfast. Her voice was gentle, but there was an edge beneath it. Lily frowned. I am. Laura forced a smile. You are going to be late for piano practice if you don't hurry. Nathan didn't move. He studied his daughter. Where was the car parked? He asked. Lily shrugged. Across the street. Laura stood up suddenly. I think we're done with this conversation. Nathan looked at her slowly. It's just a question. Lily glanced between them. The tension in the room had become noticeable even to an 8-year-old. I didn't mean anything bad, she said quietly. Nathan softened his voice. You didn't, sweetheart. Laura crossed her arms. Kids misinterpret things all the time. Nathan turned toward her. She seemed pretty clear. Laura's jaw tightened. She saw 2 adults sitting in a car, Nathan. With Michael, Nathan said. Laura said nothing. The silence stretched long enough to become uncomfortable. Finally, Lily spoke again. I waved. Nathan blinked. You waved? Yeah. Laura's shoulders tensed visibly. Nathan leaned forward slightly. Did they wave back? Lily shook her head. No. Why not? They didn't see me. Laura grabbed Lily's empty plate. Okay, breakfast is over. Mom, go brush your teeth. Lily slid off the stool reluctantly and shuffled toward the hallway. The moment she disappeared, the kitchen fell into a heavy quiet. Nathan watched Laura place dishes into the sink. Her movements were precise, controlled, too controlled. Why were you outside Lily's school? Nathan asked quietly. Laura didn't turn around. I told you, I had meetings yesterday. Nathan leaned against the island. Across the street from her school? Laura rinsed the plate slowly. You're reading too much into something a child said. Nathan studied the back of her head. Maybe. Laura dried her hands with a towel. When she finally turned, her expression had hardened slightly. You trust me, don't you? Nathan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked to the window and looked out at the quiet street. Of course I trust you, he said. But his voice carried a weight that hadn't been there before. Laura noticed. Nathan, he turned back. She said she saw you, he said. Laura crossed her arms again. And Michael. Another silence. Then Laura laughed softly. Michael probably just stopped by to say hello. Nathan's eyes narrowed slightly. Outside the school bus? You know Michael, he's spontaneous. Nathan tilted his head. Did he stop by yesterday? Laura hesitated. The pause was small, but it felt enormous. I might have met him briefly, she said. Nathan nodded slowly. There it is. Laura frowned. What does that mean? You didn't mention that part. I didn't think it mattered. Nathan studied her carefully. Nothing about this feels like it doesn't matter. Laura's voice sharpened. You're making something out of nothing. Nathan held her gaze. Am I? For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Laura's face. From the hallway, Lily's voice called out. Dad, where's my backpack? Nathan didn't break eye contact. In the mudroom, he called back. Laura looked away first. I have work to finish, she said quietly. She grabbed her phone and walked toward the stairs. Nathan remained in the kitchen, standing very still, listening to the house again. Lily's footsteps upstairs, Laura's bedroom door closing, the quiet hum of the refrigerator, and beneath all of it, the growing realization that something inside his marriage had shifted in a way he could no longer ignore. A child had seen something simple, something ordinary, but sometimes ordinary moments reveal the truths adults tried hardest to hide. Nathan picked up his phone from the counter. He opened Michael's contact. For a long time, he stared at the screen. Then he typed, "Nathan, were you near Lily's school yesterday?" The message sent. 3 gray dots appeared almost immediately. Michael was typing. Nathan felt his chest tighten. The dots disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, a message arrived. "Michael, why do you ask?" Nathan stared at the words, and for the first time since all of this began, he felt the unmistakable pull of something darker than suspicion. Something colder, something much closer to truth. In architecture, Nathan Carter had built his career on a simple principle. Patterns revealed truth. A building never failed all at once. It began with subtle shifts. Hairline cracks in concrete, weight distributed unevenly across a beam, a slight distortion in materials that had once aligned perfectly. Most people never noticed these things. Architects did. And lately, Nathan had begun to notice the cracks in his own life. Monday morning began like any other. Coffee, emails, traffic creeping slowly across the Evergreen Point floating bridge. Nathan arrived at his downtown Seattle office just after 8. The firm occupied the top floor of a renovated industrial building, its windows overlooking Elliott Bay. Normally, work ground at him, but today his thoughts drifted constantly back to one question. Were you near Lily's school yesterday? Michael had never answered. Instead, the conversation had died after that one evasive reply. Why do you ask? Nathan never responded. He simply watched the message thread sit there, unfinished. And somehow, that silence said more than any explanation could have. 3 days later, Nathan were late. At least, Laura believed he did. Around 7:30 p.m., he parked his car 2 blocks from his own house. It was the first time in 16 years of marriage that he had done something like this. The realization sat heavily in his chest. But he stayed. The street was quiet. Soft evening light filtered through the tall cedar trees lining the neighborhood. Nathan watched the Carter house from a distance. The living room lights were on. Through the large windows, he could see Laura moving inside. She paced while holding her phone. Then she stopped, typed something. A minute later, headlights turned slowly onto the street. Nathan's stomach tightened. A dark gray Audi, Michael's car. It rolled to the curb and stopped in front of the house. Nathan didn't move. He didn't breathe. Michael stepped out of the car and walked up the front path like a man who had done it 100 times before. Because he had. Nathan had opened that same door for him countless nights. Barbecues, game nights, Lily's birthday parties. Now, Michael simply knocked once. Laura opened the door immediately. Nathan watched from the shadows. The greeting was brief, no dramatic embrace, just a quiet conversation on the porch. Laura glanced nervously up and down the street. Nathan's chest tightened. Then she stepped aside. Michael entered the house. The door closed. Nathan sat in the car for nearly 10 minutes before starting the engine. He didn't drive home. Instead, he drove aimlessly through the wet streets of Seattle. Because if he stayed there any longer, he wasn't sure what he might do. The next morning, Laura seemed perfectly normal. Almost too normal. Nathan watched her from across the kitchen island as she packed Lily's lunch. "Busy day today?" Nathan asked casually. "Meetings all morning," Laura replied. "Downtown?" "No, Bellevue." Nathan nodded. "You were up late last night." Laura didn't look up. "Work." Nathan sipped his coffee. "Did Michael stop by?" Her hand paused over the lunchbox. Just for a moment. Then she resumed packing grapes. "I don't remember." Nathan studied her. "You don't remember if my best friend came to our house?" Laura sighed. "You're being weird lately." "Am I?" She finally met his eyes. "Yes." Nathan said nothing. Across the kitchen, Lily swung her legs from the stool. "Mommy forgot my water bottle again," she announced. Laura smiled quickly. "See? I'm distracted." Nathan nodded slowly. But inside, something had begun to solidify. That afternoon, Nathan stopped by the house unexpectedly. Laura had already left for work. The silence inside the home felt strange. Nathan walked into the kitchen and opened a drawer where they kept miscellaneous receipts and mail. He wasn't sure what he was looking for. Just patterns. Evidence. Proof that the uneasy feeling in his chest wasn't simply paranoia. He flipped through grocery receipts, utility bills, takeout orders. Then one slip of paper caught his attention. A small cream-colored receipt. From a boutique hotel in downtown Seattle. The Alderbrook Suites. Nathan stared at it. Date, Thursday, 2:14 p.m. Last Thursday. Nathan knew exactly where he had been last Thursday. A site meeting in Tacoma. Laura had told him she was at work. The receipt listed 2 items. Room service, champagne. Room service, lunch for 2. Nathan placed the receipt back in the drawer carefully. His hands were steady. His mind was not. Later that evening, he noticed something else. Laura's phone. They were sitting on the couch watching television when Laura received the message. Her phone lit briefly. A name flashed across the screen. But before Nathan could read it clearly, she grabbed the phone and turned it away. Nathan smiled faintly. Secret admirer? Laura forced a laugh. Work. Let me see. She hesitated. Then she held up the phone for half a second. The screen was locked. A 6-digit passcode. Nathan blinked. You changed it? Laura shrugged. Security update. Nathan nodded. Of course. But the old passcode had been Lily's birthday. Laura had never changed it in years. Until now. That night, Nathan lay awake beside her, listening to her breathing. Slow, even. But he knew she wasn't asleep either. He could feel the tension in her body, the invisible wall that had grown between them. And slowly, piece by piece, the patterns aligned. Michael's sudden visits, the parked car near Lily's school, the hotel receipt, the new phone password, the late-night messages. Each detail alone meant little, but together they formed something undeniable, something painful, something Nathan had spent weeks trying not to name. Finally, in the quiet darkness of their bedroom, he whispered the word silently to himself. Affair. The word sat there, heavy, cold, and once spoken, even silently, it could never be taken back. Nathan stared at the ceiling for a long time. Beside him, Laura shifted slightly in her sleep. Or perhaps she only pretended to sleep. He no longer knew. Outside, Seattle rain began again. Soft, relentless. And Nathan Carter understood something with terrible clarity. The truth wasn't coming all at once. It was arriving slowly, like water seeping through cracks in a foundation. And eventually, it would bring the whole structure down. The rain stopped sometime before dawn. Seattle woke beneath a sky the color of steel, the streets still wet and shining under early morning traffic lights. Nathan Carter had not slept. He sat alone at the kitchen island long before sunrise, a mug of coffee growing cold in his hands. The house was silent except for the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the old cedar beams settling in the damp morning air. On the counter beside him lay the folded receipt from the older book suites. He had taken it from the drawer the night before. For hours he had stared at it, not because the paper itself mattered, but because it confirmed something he had already begun to understand. Patterns didn't lie. Footsteps sounded softly upstairs. Laura. Nathan didn't move. A few minutes later, she entered the kitchen wearing one of his old grey sweatshirts, her hair loosely tied. She stopped when she saw him already awake. "You're up early," she said. Nathan looked at her. For the first time in weeks, he didn't hide the exhaustion in his eyes. Couldn't sleep. Laura walked to the coffee machine and poured herself a cup. "You should try melatonin," she said casually. Nathan slipped the receipt across the counter. The small piece of paper stopped in front of her hand. Laura stared at it. The change in her face happened slowly. First confusion, then recognition, then something heavier, something like dread. Nathan watched every stage. "What is that?" she asked quietly. Nathan leaned back in his chair. "You tell me." Laura didn't touch the receipt. She just looked at it. "You went through my things?" Nathan laughed softly. "Your things?" Laura crossed her arms. "That's not the point." "No," Nathan said calmly. "The point is the hotel." Silence. Outside, a car drove past, tires hissing on wet pavement. Laura finally picked up the receipt. Her hands were steady, but her breathing wasn't. "It's a lunch meeting," she said. Nathan nodded. "With champagne." Laura said nothing. Nathan studied her for a long moment. "Do you want to try again?" Her shoulders sank slightly, but she didn't speak. Nathan stood up slowly and walked to the window. Morning light was beginning to spread across the quiet street. "You know what the worst part is?" he said. Laura didn't answer. "I wasn't even looking for this." Nathan turned toward her. "I found it because I was trying to prove myself wrong." Laura's eyes glistened slightly now. "Nathan, was it Michael?" The question landed quietly, but its weight filled the entire room. Laura closed her eyes. For a moment, Nathan thought she might lie again. Instead, her voice came out almost as a whisper. Yes. The word hung in the air. Nathan felt something inside his chest collapse. Not violently, not dramatically, just quietly. Like a building finally giving in after years of hidden structural damage. How long? He asked. Laura pressed a hand against her mouth. Nathan, how long? Her voice cracked. A year. Nathan stared at her. A year. Laura nodded weakly. It didn't start like that. Nathan let out a hollow laugh. It never does. She gripped the edge of the counter as if steadying herself. You were working constantly, she said through tears. The waterfront project, the Tacoma contracts, you were gone all the time. Nathan's eyes hardened. So you slept with my best friend. Laura shook her head violently. It wasn't just that. Oh, I'm sure it wasn't. Nathan, please listen. He crossed his arms. I'm listening. Laura wiped her cheeks, trying to regain control. It started after that winter when Lily got sick, she said. You remember? Nathan remembered. Of course he remembered. 3 years ago. Lily had spent 2 nights in the hospital with a severe infection. Nathan had slept in a chair beside her bed. Laura had barely slept at all. You were exhausted, Laura continued. You buried yourself in work afterward. I think it was your way of coping. Nathan's voice was cold. And Michael comforted you. Laura shook her head again. It was one night. We were talking. I was overwhelmed. He was there. Nathan laughed bitterly. And you tripped and fell into his bed? Laura's face twisted with pain. It was a mistake. But you kept making it. Tears streamed freely down her face now. I tried to end it. When? Several times. Nathan stared at her. You really going to say that out loud? I mean it. Then why didn't you stop? Laura's voice broke completely. Because I didn't know how. The words echoed through the kitchen. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Finally, Laura whispered. It got complicated. Nathan shook his head slowly. You're unbelievable. I never stopped loving you. Nathan's love this time was sharp and humorless. You have a strange way of showing it. Laura stepped toward him. Nathan, please. He raised a hand. Don't. She froze. Nathan's voice had gone very quiet. Do you know when I started realizing something was wrong? Laura didn't answer. Dinner, Nathan said. The night Lily whispered in your ear. Laura's face drained of color. Nathan noticed immediately. What did she say? He asked softly. Laura looked terrified. Nathan, what did she say? Her voice trembled. She said she saw us. Nathan felt his stomach drop. In the car, Laura whispered. Outside her school. The kitchen fell silent again. Nathan closed his eyes briefly. So Lily really had seen. The child's innocent observation. A moment that had shattered everything. When he opened his eyes again, Laura was watching him desperately. I ended it, she said quickly. Nathan frowned. What with Michael? She continued. After that day, I couldn't keep doing it. Not after Lily almost found out. Nathan studied her carefully. And he agreed to that? Laura hesitated. He didn't have much choice. Nathan nodded slowly. Of course. Another long silence settled between them. Finally, Nathan spoke again. His voice was calm. Too calm. I'm going to talk to him. Laura's eyes widened. Nathan, don't. I need to. This will make everything worse. Nathan looked at her. I'm not sure that's possible. Laura reached for him, but Nathan stepped back. And for the first time since their marriage began 16 years ago, there was a distance between them that neither of them knew how to cross. Seattle carried that quiet, grey stillness that came after a long night of rain. The streets were still damp, the air cool, and the clouds hung low over the skyline like something unfinished. Nathan Carter chose the place carefully. Not the bar they used to go to, not anywhere connected to memories that now felt contaminated. Instead, he picked a small coffee shop near Gasworks Park, a quiet place overlooking Lake Union where people mostly sat alone with laptops or books. Neutral ground. Michael Dawson was already there when Nathan arrived, sitting at a table near the window. For a brief second, Nathan saw the man he had known for more than half his life, the friend who had shared dorm rooms, road trips, cheap beers after failed exams, and the awkward excitement of early adulthood. But that image vanished quickly. Now Michael looked tired, older. He stood when Nathan approached. Nate. Nathan didn't offer a handshake. He sat down across from him. Michael sat too. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The espresso machine hissed behind the counter. Outside, a jogger passed along the lake path. Ordinary life continuing, indifferent to the quiet collapse unfolding at their table. Finally, Nathan spoke. I talked to Laura. Michael nodded slowly. I figured. Nathan watched him carefully. So we are not going to pretend anymore? Michael exhaled. No. The words sat between them. Nathan folded his hands on the table. How long? Michael stared into his coffee. A year. Nathan nodded once. Same answer she gave. Michael looked up. I'm not going to lie to you. Nathan's jaw tightened slightly. That would be refreshing. Silence again. Then Nathan asked the question he had been holding back. Why? Michael leaned back in his chair. For a moment, he seemed to search for the right words. There isn't a version of this story where I look like a good person, he said finally. Nathan didn't respond. Michael rubbed his hands together. It started small. Nathan let out a short breath. That phrase again. I know, Michael said quietly. It sounds pathetic. Nathan leaned forward slightly. You were my best friend. Michael nodded. I know. You held my daughter the day she was born. Michael closed his eyes briefly. I remember. Nathan's voice remained controlled, but there was steel beneath it now. You stood next to me at my wedding. Michael's voice dropped. I remember that too. Nathan shook his head slowly. And you still did it. Michael met his gaze. Yes. There was no hesitation, no excuse in the world, just the truth. Nathan leaned back again. For a moment the only sound was the low hum of the coffee shop. Then Nathan asked quietly, Did you love her? Michael didn't answer immediately. His eyes moved toward the lake outside the window. Yes, he said finally. Nathan felt something inside him twist painfully. How long? Michael hesitated. Longer than the affair. Nathan laughed softly. That's comforting. Michael didn't smile. I never planned for it to happen. Nathan shook his head. None of you ever do. Michael's voice grew heavier. You were always the steady one, Nate. The guy who knew where his life was going. Nathan said nothing. Michael continued. And Laura, she was lonely. Nathan's eyes flashed. She had a husband. She had a husband who was drowning in work. Nathan leaned forward again, his voice low. Careful. Michael raised his hand slightly. I'm not blaming you. Sounds like you are. I'm explaining. Nathan studied him. You think that makes it better? No, Michael said quietly. It doesn't. Another long silence stretched between them. Finally, Nathan asked the question he had dreaded most. How many times? Michael looked down again. Enough. Nathan nodded slowly. I appreciate the honesty. Michael's voice softened. I tried to end it. Nathan scoffed. That's also what Laura said. It's true. When? After Lily saw us in the car. Nathan's stomach tightened. Michael continued. She waved from the bus. We didn't see her until it was already passing. Nathan stared at him. And you still kept going? Michael shook his head. No, that's when it stopped. Nathan studied him carefully. You're sure? Yes. Completely? Michael held his gaze. Yes. Nathan leaned back again. His mind replayed the past year now with terrible clarity. Every barbecue, every casual visit, every moment Michael had sat in this very house. The trust that had existed between them had been absolute. Now it felt like a cool joke. Nathan spoke quietly. You didn't just betray me. Michael didn't argue. You betrayed Lily too. Michael swallowed hard. I know. Nathan's voice remained steady, but his eyes had grown darker. She calls you Uncle Michael. Michael's shoulders sagged slightly. I know. And you walked into my house like nothing was happening. Michael didn't defend himself, because there was no defense left. Finally, he said the only thing that still felt honest. I destroyed something bigger than the two of us. Nathan didn't answer. Michael continued. I destroyed a family. The words hung in the air. Nathan stared out the window for a long time. The lake surface rippled gently in the wind. People continued jogging. Cyclists passed. Somewhere, a dog barked happily. Normal life. Finally, Nathan stood. Michael looked up quickly. Nathan cut him off. I don't want you near my house. Michael nodded immediately. Okay. I don't want you near my daughter. Understood. Nathan's voice drew quieter. And I don't want to see you again. Michael lowered his eyes. That's fair. Nathan studied him one last time. The friend he had trusted for 2 decades. The man who had helped break his marriage. For a brief second, Nathan almost said something more. Something angry. Something violent. But instead, he simply nodded once. Then he walked away. Michael remained sitting at the table, alone, watching the empty chair across from him, and realizing that some losses could never be repaired. Seattle winter had settled into its slow rhythm by the time the Carter house began to feel like a home again. Not the same home, but something quieter, something fragile. 4 months had passed since the morning Nathan placed the hotel receipt on the kitchen counter. In that time, nothing dramatic had happened. No screaming fights, no smashed plates, no sudden divorces. Instead, the aftermath unfolded in small, careful steps, like walking across thin ice. The therapist's office sat on the 3rd floor of a brick building in downtown Seattle, overlooking a row of rain-darkened maple trees. Nathan sat on one end of the couch. Laura sat on the other. Between them, a space large enough to hold everything that had been broken. Dr. Ellen Marlowe rested a notebook on her lap. "Tell me something good that happened this week," she said gently. Nathan exhaled slowly. Lately, that question always felt harder than it should, but he answered. "Lily's piano recital," he said. Laura nodded slightly. She played the entire piece without stopping. A small smile crossed Nathan's face. She messed up the middle section. Laura's smile grew faintly, but she kept going. Dr. Marlowe watched them carefully. "That sounds like resilience." Nathan glanced briefly at Laura. Neither of them said what they were both thinking. Resilience was something their family had been forced to learn. Living in the same house again had taken time. At first, Laura had slept in the guest room, not because Nathan asked her to, because she assumed he would want that. But after several weeks, Lily had begun asking questions. "Why doesn't mommy sleep upstairs?" Children noticed everything, even the quiet things, so Laura moved back. But the bed felt larger now, the silence between them longer. They spoke politely, kindly, carefully, like two people learning a language they once spoke fluently but had forgotten. One Saturday afternoon, Nathan stood in the backyard helping Lily build a small wooden birdhouse. The air smelled of wet cedar and fallen leaves. Lily hammered a nail slightly crooked. "Oops," she said. Nathan adjusted it gently. "Try again." Laura stood on the porch watching them, her hands wrapped around the mug of tea. She had been watching like that a lot lately, quietly, as if observing a life she had nearly destroyed. Nathan looked up and noticed her. Their eyes met. For a brief moment, neither of them looked away. Then Lily spoke. "Mom!" Laura stepped down from the porch. "Yeah? Come see my birdhouse." Laura crouched beside them. "It's beautiful," she said softly. Nathan could hear the emotion in her voice. She touched the edge of the wood carefully. "You're getting good at this." Lily beamed. "Dad helped." Laura glanced toward Nathan. Of course he did. Nathan gave a small nod. The moment was simple, ordinary. But months ago, moments like this had seemed impossible. Later that night, the house grew quiet again. Lily had fallen asleep early after a long day. Nathan stood in the kitchen, rinsing dishes, when Laura walked in. "You don't have to do that," she said. "I don't mind." She leaned against the counter. For a while she simply watched him. Finally she spoke. "I saw Michael today." Nathan stopped. Not dramatically, just paused. "At the grocery store," she added quickly. Nathan resumed rinsing the plate. "Did you talk?" Laura shook her head. "No." Nathan placed the dish in the rack. He respected the boundary. "Yes." Laura studied Nathan carefully. "You never asked if I missed him." Nathan dried his hands slowly. "Do you?" Laura's answer came immediately. "No." Nathan turned toward her. She continued quietly. "What I miss is who I used to be before I made those choices." Nathan watched her for a long time. There were still days when anger surged unexpectedly. Moments when the memory of betrayal returned sharp and vivid. But those moments were becoming different. Not gone, just less consuming. "I don't know what we are now," Laura said softly. Nathan leaned against the counter. "Neither do I." Silence filled the kitchen again, but this silence was different from the ones before. Less hostile, more uncertain. Laura spoke again. "Do you think people can actually forgive something like this?" Nathan thought carefully before answering. "I think forgiveness isn't a single moment." Laura waited. "It's a process," Nathan continued. "Sometimes a very long one." Laura nodded slowly. "And love?" Nathan looked toward the hallway where Lily slept, then back at Laura. "Love changes," he said. "How?" Nathan's voice softened. "It survives differently." Laura's eyes filled with tears again. But this time they didn't fall. She simply nodded. "Thank you for trying," she whispered. Nathan didn't answer right away. Instead he turned off the kitchen light. The house fell into soft darkness. Then he said quietly, "I'm not trying for us." Laura looked confused. Nathan glanced toward Lily's bedroom. "I'm trying for her." Laura followed his gaze. "Yes," she said softly. They stood there together in the dim kitchen, not touching, not quite apart, just two people standing in the aftermath of something broken. Outside, Seattle rain began again, soft, endless. But inside the Carter house, something small and fragile continued to exist. Not the perfect marriage they once believed in, not the easy trust they once shared, but something else, something quieter, a possibility. And sometimes, in the quiet hours of the night, Nathan realized something he hadn't expected. Love hadn't completely disappeared. It had simply become something more complicated, something wounded, something cautious, but still, somehow, alive.